Have you ever found yourself loving someone who's just been arrested? I found myself in that position, and I had no idea how to navigate the correctional facilities, institutions, the jail system, anything. And I really needed help. I wish I had had our guest to help me navigate what was going on. She is incredible and compassionate and truly cares about the person that's dealing with substance use disorder that has committed a crime or multiple crimes, and the families that support them in the midst of it. Please welcome Nicole Schueppert, who is 10 years as a probation officer with the Wisconsin Department of Corrections. She is committed to the work that she does, and we're going to talk about the journey from start to finish, the trends that are emerging, and she truly gives me hope. Welcome, Nicole. So once again, I am super delighted to be able to have Nicole Schueppert on from the Wisconsin Department of Corrections. And the reason I wanted her on here is because most of us who have experienced this as a parent or a loved one, having somebody that we love arrested, it feels like they go into this black box and we have no idea what's going on. And quite frankly, most of us hear the worst of the worst. And so I wanted to give a face to the institution and let people know that the vast majority of people who work in corrections and in the world that we're exposed to truly do care and are in it to help and to make things better. And so Nicole is one of those people. And so welcome.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Absolutely. So if you would, for our audience, give a little bit of background as to what your role and responsibilities are, and how did you come to this?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I'll start with, I started out in the criminal justice career many years ago, and I thought I was going to go the law enforcement route. And I had started in a county jail. And I also worked at a treatment facility doing day reports, so meeting with clients. So I was kind of doing both worlds. And I had decided maybe law enforcement officer wasn't my route because I really enjoyed helping people. And then I felt sometimes I did like the county jail job, but I felt like I was stuck. So I wanted to find something that kind of met in the middle, and I was able to help individuals kind of reform, change their lives, do those kind of things. And the treatment route, I liked it, but I wasn't sold on it. So this was the meeting in the middle. So I have been doing my job as a probation and parole agent for the last 10 years in the WPACA office. And so our role consists of when individuals are sentenced from court to probation, we are assigned their cases, and then we supervise them. And it all depends. Everybody's different. We either are seeing them on a weekly basis, twice a month basis, once a month, every 3 months. So it all depends. We also supervise individuals on extended supervision. So they might have gone to court and had a prison sentence. And then upon their prison sentence, they're usually given extended supervision. So then those individuals are also supervised. So we're community supervision when anybody parole, probation, or extended supervision.
Okay. All right. So for somebody who has not had this experience, because that was my story, and I'm sure a lot of parents have gone through this, is that you get the phone call, your son, daughter, or somebody that you love has been arrested, and fear is the first thing that comes to mind. And so help our audience understand how they would be better served to approach this.
So yeah, that's a lot of things I hear from parents. And it's hard because when you get that phone call and they have been arrested, they're in jail, right? And they haven't been sentenced yet. So it's that whole court process. And you don't really have somebody to guide you through that court process.
Mhm.
So then it could be months, years, it all depends on how that whole proceeding goes. And then it comes to us, right? So a lot of times parents are a little frustrated, right? Because they don't know what's going on, or parents are like, how do I get involved? What can I do to help? Those are, I think that's always the best client, because
Mhm.
we can help from day one. So if a parent is coming from court, sometimes they come straight from court and they're like, what I want to know what they need to do, what their rules are, everything. And it's kind of hard because when somebody's sentenced, you don't always get to meet with an agent right away. So it's about a week to 2 weeks because it has to be assigned to somebody. And then they're assigned, and then the parents they can get involved right away. And that's always, like I said, that's always the best thing. The clients that I have my caseload, that the parents get involved, it doesn't matter their age, are probably typically the most successful clients that I have. Now, sometimes clients don't always like that because, parents are meddling in or whatever, but they're not fully understanding what they've all gotten themselves into all the time. So it's work to be on probation. It's not just you're out in the community now and you get to go live your life. You have to follow certain rules. There's certain expectations that the courts put on you that that we have to make sure you adhere to. So when parents are like, I just want to know what their rules are, I'd like to know how I can help. How can I assist them in being successful? Those are our most successful clients that I see. And the clients have to put the work into. I can't say the parents can do everything for them.
Yeah.
But if they have that guidance and they have that support system there, those are the individuals that are going to be successful.
Yeah. And so the way that I hear that is you need somebody who loves you,
Yes. Yep.
and cares and is willing to learn how to be supportive in a way that will serve the person who has been incarcerated. I mean, we're obviously talking about addiction here, which is a completely different animal. And yeah.
And I shouldn't say it's always parents. I should take a step back because it's a lot of times it could be other family members, significant others, grandparents we see, raising. So it all depends on having just that person, like you said, who loves and cares for them to be there to just help along the way as they go. So,
yeah. Okay. And so let's sit back just a little bit. How did you find yourself here? Why are you here? Why are you doing this thing?
Like I said, it was that happy medium, right? So I didn't want to be in the disciplinary area all the time, kind of the bad guy on the streets taking them in and doing all that, or in the county jails. And then I wasn't necessarily kind of sold on the treatment end. So I wanted that happy medium, and I truly enjoy helping people. Our job does come with little reward, the successes, we see a lot of successes, but we see also like a lot of people back, but it's just those little successes mean so much. We also have like a really great team. And I think that when the people you work with, you enjoy working with them, and you're all doing the same thing and you're there for the same purpose, that just says a lot. So I'm here because I've been in this office for 10 years. And I have some clients that I've had for 10 years. So
Sure.
I'm not giving up on them. So it's just, you see the little successes, you see the little changes. And even if somebody has been on my caseload and I see them in a year or two, I've seen changes. It's not all hope is lost. I've seen that in the last 2 years, they have changed things. It's just, they haven't completely changed everything yet. So I'm here because I see that I want to see people do better. And I think that the department has come a long way in 10 years, and that we have more opportunities for our clients. We're not just kind of a, one size fits all and everybody gets the same thing. And it's challenging. I like a good challenge.
Yeah.
I take on a lot of the challenges, but I really like it. And I think that I like working with clients when they are those challenges. What do we need to do to make this work for you, and kind of figure it out? So no two people are the same, no
Mhm.
days are the same, everything's,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, so there's a lot of variety. I'm imagining a lot of creativity. It sounds like fantastic that you have a great team because I'm a big team believer.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I also feel like there's probably like a community of resources that
Mhm.
are available now, and that there's more of a community team that is involved in the process also. Is that true?
Absolutely. I think WPAC is a smaller community. And so we have seen a lot of challenges over the last, since I've started here in the last 10 years. And just the community resources that have evolved over those 10 years have been
Mm-hmm.
so significant because there's been such a need with the opioid epidemic, COVID, all the things that kind of just,
Right.
start put these challenges in front of us. Our community has really come together. And I work a lot with our community. I'm on our drug court. I'm one of our drug court agents. Our
Okay.
drug court team consists of the DA's office, the public defender's office, judges, treatment providers from the community. So we have DHS. So we have a team that I see every single week and we meet. And even if it's not just our participants, we also can, talk about other things that might be going on within our community on the side or, so it's yes, community resources are so important to have. And I'm very thankful for ours here.
Yeah. And so when did drug court become a thing in your area?
Gosh, I want to say 2000 and maybe 18. I'm not exactly positive. So I think we've been up and running for about 8 years now.
Okay.
I was one that helped to start it. And then there was another agent that was kind of the lead on it. And then I came in after like a year because we were starting to get really big. So I had helped in the initial stages of getting it started. And then she had taken it over for a little while just because we didn't have as many clients and I was doing a lot of other things. And then I joined again a couple years ago because we don't really have a limit as to how many participants we have. So
Okay.
we could have as many as 20 people at one time. So, and that's a lot, right? Because
Yeah.
each stage is different for drug court. Each client is different. So it's not, you might have somebody that only is coming every 4 weeks, and then you have somebody that you see every single week. So you have to adjust, and we adjusted. And so now I've been doing that for the past couple of years.
And so I'm imagining that a significant number of people that are on probation or go to jail or whatever, that it's addiction related issues.
Yes. I don't have an exact number, but yes, a huge percentage is. I can maybe say I have a handful of clients that aren't, but
Okay.
stemming from, and the thing is too, is it's not always people on for the possession charges or those kind of things where we just see and say, okay, they have an addiction. It's theft, it's burglary, it's the one, those are also ones that you really need to pay attention to too, because they were doing that to pay for their addiction. So yes, I would say very few clients I have that don't have an addiction. So
Yeah, which I think for some people is kind of surprising.
it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that, as I began to learn more about what was really going on from a community standpoint, to learn that, at least in Washington, 75 to 80% of anybody who's incarcerated, it's drug related. And so then it becomes a different question, because if you just deal with the symptom, you're not getting to the root cause of what's going on and why it's going on, and so on and so forth. So because you're in the
Absolutely.
trenches, you get to deal with the root causes.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a lot different now. So when I remember when I first started and I would have somebody on my caseload for a theft or a burglary charge, and you'd have to kind of comb through their reports and kind of dig a little bit before you met with them. And they weren't really telling you why they were doing it, but you knew, and you would have to, just build the rapport with them and kind of get them to talk to you more and trust you. Now, I think after all these years, they'll come in and they'll be like, this is what's going on. This is what I have, because they know that's what we're here to do. We're here to help. We're here to, help them find their resources that they need, get them on track and help get them towards a better life and a better future. So it's really changed in that aspect too, where people are more honest and people are more forthcoming with that information. So
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've built a reputation.
a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's just, it's so important, is because on the front end, most people are scared. They're just so
Mhm.
scared. And they're afraid that their life is going to end. And so to know that you and your team is there to really help them, and that trust is the foundation of getting that help.
Mhm.
So kudos to you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's really important for people to hear too, is that we're not just here to punish people for the behavior. We're also here because it is addiction related most of the time, to let's get to the cause,
Yes.
and let's deal with, how can we help turn this around?
Yeah. And again, I know I keep going back to how things have changed over the last couple of years, but that was kind of the response when I first started was, oh, you did something, you came in and you used, and okay, we're going to put you in jail for this because we knew how to respond, but we didn't know how to respond. So we were trying to keep, that was our way of thinking we could keep them safe. And, treatment has evolved over the years as well. So it was, well, we're going to do this until we can get them into this. And I guess now you fast forward 10 years, I always take a step back. So when I have somebody, I have to take a step back and say, okay, what do we have going? Do we have a job? Do we have stable housing? Are they trying to get to treatment the best they can? All of those things that they're trying to do. So then you have to put yourself in their shoes and say, okay, I'm going to take that away. I'm going to take their job away. Whoever they're living with is going to be like, well, you have to really evaluate each situation differently. And it's not just putting them in jail for every violation or thing that they do, which has come along with evidence-based evidence-based responses, which is what we follow as our guidelines for violations that our clients might have. But I think that
could you say a little bit more about that, evidence-based responses?
Sure. Yeah. So when somebody is placed on supervision or released on extended supervision, we do an assessment on them. It's called a core assessment. And everybody has the same assessment. So it's not picking or choosing any of the questions. And going through, and it looks at their age. It looks at if they've been on probation before, if they've been in prison, if they have had violations, if they've been revoked. So it goes through all like a history, and then it answers a bunch of questions on like peers, housing, kind of just their opinions on things. And so after that, it comes out with a response, and we have a low, medium, or high response. And that is what we look at when we supervise them. So if somebody is a high response, we'll typically supervise them at max, which is twice a month. And then if somebody is a medium response, we'll see them once a month, and then a low is every 3 months. And that can change. That can always change around. But when we have somebody that comes in and they might have had a violation, we can put all of that into our system, and it'll kind of give us a guidance on how we respond to their violations. So typically, if you have somebody that, doesn't have a lot of history and is lower, will respond a different way than somebody who might have a longer history and is a higher response or something like that. So it very much guides us, because again, back then we responded the same to almost everybody. And now with the evidence-based responses, we are able to say, okay, we have all these options that we can do with them, all these things we can look at. How should we respond to that situation? And what are they doing? We don't want to take a job away from them. We don't want to, jumble things around. There might be kids involved. So it's very helpful for us to have that, because, when you have new agents come in too, they don't know these people sometimes. So you have to just make sure that everybody's responding the right way.
Yeah. And so can you also speak about the changes that you've seen in the last few years relative to the uptick in fentanyl, which is a whole different animal other than, opioid use?
Yes. So the Department of Corrections back in 2017 had piloted the Vivitrol program. And Vivitrol is the non-opiate injection that you can get once a month. That is an opioid blocker. So we had piloted that within the region that I worked in, and saw a very big success with it, and had done that for a couple of years. Well, then as time went on, it's not again, I'll go back to the one size fits all. It wasn't for everybody. And at that time, a lot more areas had the treatment clinics, the medicated assisted treatment clinics. And we're seeing that there was success with other forms of medicated assisted treatment. So I think one of the biggest things that we have done is the shift to medicated assisted treatment and really getting on board with all three of those different treatments. I'll admit at the beginning, I was not on board with it as an agent because it was one more thing to kind of monitor and make sure everything was okay. But I have seen more successes than not with the shift. And that just goes along with harm reduction. The department is very big in harm reduction now. That's another huge shift we've seen. We offer Narcan, we offer the fentanyl test strips. We have most of the lobbies have boxes in them. The agents are able to give it out to clients. So we just have a lot more things to offer our clients now. And a lot more kind of that shift in, hey, we're here to help, we're on board. What do you need from us? More than punishing, that punishment that you see us, that's how people kind of view that.
Right.
So yeah, I think that those have been some really big shifts that have happened in the last couple of years, especially since COVID. That was a really hard time for everybody, and then, a lot of clients. But we also have formed, there's a lot of state teams. We have like our opioid advisory team for the state, which is we're shifting to like our substance use advisory team. That is a team where we meet when somebody from the entire state, they can refer a client that they're kind of like struggling with. And what do I do? We've done A, B,
That's
C,
great.
D. Yeah. So we meet every single week and we can help clients. We can help agents review their clients and give them suggestions. And it's nice sometimes because when you have maybe somebody in Wapaka, but there might be a resource for them in a different area. So that's really nice to have where that they also we have a whole bunch of resources for agents. There's resources for parents, clients on the website. So, I mean, we just have so many more options and things to offer.
Right. So, I'm curious to know from your perspective, like what information, like books or podcasts or videos that have had the most impact in your understanding of this disease and how to approach it?
I like podcasts a lot because I think there's a lot out there on podcasts, and there's different types of podcasts. You have a really good podcast, and I appreciate that because I don't know if there's enough for the family members out there too. So that's nice because I do have a lot of clients that listen to podcasts, and they'll talk about those. I always say knowledge is power. So anything that you can find, any resources. I like to do a lot of online trainings. I like them. Other people don't, but I like to YouTube videos are great. There's just quick. I always will Google like 5-minute YouTube videos on addiction. And some of those videos have just the knowledge, like it crammed into that 5 minutes. It's so much. There's so much. And if I'm mentoring a new agent or I'm doing something, I'll say, hey, check out this video and just watch this to get a little bit of knowledge on that. I also like the SAMHSA website, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health website. I think that has for anybody and everybody has. And then the Addiction Policy Forum website is a really good one too, because you can Google anything on there and find any questions. So those are kind of the ones that the internet's so powerful. You can find anything in there. Yeah. But I also tell the parents of my clients or family members, I should say, of my clients, the community, get involved in your community or and we give resources to our family members. And I know that a lot of the offices have those resources for family members. So it's just asking and saying, what can I do to get involved, or how can I get more information? Because we can help them and we can guide them and we can do it. But sometimes they want to be around other family members, or they want to know that it's not just them going through this.
Absolutely.
That's very important.
Well, I love the fact that number one, I'm a big learner, And so when other people are like, listening to different things and gathering information, because it's evolving so much, and societally it has evolved. And I think my take on it is that because there are so many, addiction is at a pandemic level. I mean, you can look at the right or the left of you, and one of you or two of you knows somebody. If it's not in your family, it's somebody that you know. And so it's now become very personal.
I agree. I mean, we're breaking the stigma, right? So we're trying to break through that and not be embarrassed to talk about it, or not be embarrassed for people to ask questions about it. Or, the colleges now, I think about schools, because those are the young ones. That's, 18 and up is the most vulnerable. I think 18 to, what did they say, 38, 40 is like your most vulnerable stages. And maybe we're not getting there enough, but I know that some high schools are starting to educate and, work that in there. But the colleges, I've been to a couple colleges recently, and they have the Narcan boxes in the dorms, and they have information on the wall. So it's talking about it, and it's getting it out there and making sure that it's okay. Talk about it. Harm reduction is very important, I think, and that's just breaking that whole barrier there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, stigma and judgment and all of that has kept us in silence, which kills us.
Yes.
And my experience, and it's been evolving understanding, is that family members and even friends are kind of a slow reveal. I mean, there's a lot of podcasts and there's a lot of people that are willing to talk about their recovery, but there are not so many people that are willing to talk about, loving somebody who has dealt with addiction or is in addiction. There seems to be more stigma and shame on our side of the equation now than even in the addiction space, which is fascinating to me. So, part of my job, the way that I see it, is to shatter that, because we all need to be in this, because it is a disease, and there's no other disease where we would be ashamed to have conversations about and tackle and take on. So I'm curious from your perspective, because the way that I think about this is trauma is kind of that hungry ghost that lies below the surface of addiction. And that was a slow reveal to me too. So, but once I got clear about it and I did more research about it, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yes, trauma is a huge part of a lot of the clients that I see with addiction. And I couldn't pinpoint how many I have or anything, but yeah, there's usually an underlying, once we peel back the onion and we dig and dig and dig as we're building that rapport, it goes back to when I was this age, something happened, or when this happened. I mean, you all, don't get me wrong, you have those clients that I was hanging out with my buddy and this is how I got started, or somebody that you hear a lot of the stories too, where they got in a car accident or work accident, and then that's how their addiction started. But yes, trauma is absolutely a very big part of a lot of clients' addictions. And I think that you bring up a good point. We're starting to see that more and hear that more and talk about it more. And in our area, we do have more programming that is specializing around trauma.
Oh,
so
great.
It's nice to see. Yeah. So it's not just a alcohol or drug class, or it's not just a cognitive behavioral class. It's like a seeking safety or trauma support, or something where they're digging down. And this is how it kind of started, and then building up from there. Because you can have a lot of people who will go through like the alcohol classes or the cognitive behavioral classes, and they can recite it, they can teach it, they can, but they haven't gotten to the root of where it all started.
Yeah.
And once you start digging at that and peeling those layers away is when you're going to start to be like, okay, we can implement everything else while we're working on this. And they don't want to. As human beings, we don't want to talk about things that have affected us or bothered us. So you don't blame them, but if you really want to fix all around and move forward, that's where you got to kind of go to. So I have found that in the last couple of years, as well as like something that has evolved, is that we're focusing more on that. Let's start here. Let's not just cover the surface, but let's really dig down and start there and then work our way up so we can do it all the right way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think addiction is kind of the big societal red flag that in so many ways we're a trauma based society. And so the way that I think about things, that red flag is kind of the gift to actually deal with what's really truly going on. And yes, most people don't want to have to deal with the pain of whatever that trauma is. They'd rather self-medicate. And that's true for, those of us who love people is it's hard to watch like for me, my son, was very hard to watch him suffer like that and actually deal with my own pain of that. So learning to build my community of safety to be able to share and talk about it and again to learn and do all of those things that I think are mission critical, so to speak, for us to learn to navigate no matter what our loved one is, what part they're in, what are they still in addiction? Are they, have they relapsed for the 7th time? All of those kinds of things. So.
And it's like you said, it's so important to take care of yourself and to how can I deal with my stuff? How do I deal with what I'm going through and then help support him? And, because it's hard to watch him. And I say the same thing to family members. I said, you have to first take care of yourself because you aren't going to be any good for them if you're also going through something. So it's very important. So sometimes, you can't tell them. They'll say, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And it's like, well, this might be a good idea. Those, I can't tell them what to do because then, it's a full circle and the client's yelling at me, but it's, you need to take a step back. You need to say, okay, what can I do right now in this moment to help them? And sometimes it is distance, boundaries, those kind of things. So it's both sides. It's hard for both sides to go through that because they're saying, I'm over here and I'm barely getting by. And now you're doing this to me. But then the loved one's saying, yeah, but I don't know how to do all this and take all this on because I'm not okay right now. So it's both taking a step back. And when the families do that and come together, when things start to it helps both parties out a lot more than it would if both parties are trying to just barely hang on.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think my story would be that my learning to take much better care of myself helped my son. And because I know he was concerned about me, even in his addiction.
Yeah.
Which, so it's kind of this weird thing, this whole addiction thing. But it is the first thing I always ask whoever I'm dealing with is, okay, what are you doing to take care of yourself? And sometimes I get the like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. They're like, I'm not.
Yeah. We're supposed to be focused on them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So there's a whole mental reorientation that takes place. So I'm really curious, Nicole, because I'm imagining that your area and the area of corrections in general is a high burnout area. And so what do you do to take care of yourself so that you can keep doing this great work that you're doing?
I've learned to take a step back. I was always go, thinking about work, bringing work home with me, doing those kind of things. And so now even if I get really busy and I know I'm getting to that point of burnout, I will say, I can do it tomorrow. I won't bring my work home with me and do that. Sometimes that's what's got to happen. The work will be there. You always get it done. I also just self-care, reading self-care. I like to read. So those kind of reading fun books and then self-care books and walking, just getting out and moving and doing those kind of things. I don't know. I really like my job. So it's sometimes hard to say, oh, I need to get away or do this. Everybody needs to get away and do that.
Yes.
So I think that just reminding myself that you do need to take that mental break. You do need to take a step back. We have a high burnout in our jobs. We have a lot of secondary trauma. every day you're trying to rack your brain around helping somebody else. And we have our lives too separately. We have our own lives, right? Stuff going on in our own lives.
Yeah.
So just remembering that what we do is very important, but we just take that step back sometimes and find something to occupy my time. Or even for new agents, I tell them, you got to find something to
Yes.
just take a step back every now and then. And I used to be a huge reader, stopped for a lot of years, and now in the last couple of years I picked up reading a lot again. So just making sure phone, everything's put away, read for a little bit, and taking the step back. So
yeah. Well, I think kind of to piggyback on what you said earlier is there's so much information out there now on the internet and so on and so forth in terms of how do we take better care of ourselves? What are all the areas that we can perfect in taking care of ourselves? And when you do this kind of work, it is mission critical so that you don't get sucked into the hole with your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big fan of podcasts, and sometimes I got to put the crime podcasts away and switch to the other ones. So remembering that too, because I do like to listen to that kind of stuff. I find it interesting. I mean, this is the career I'm in. So taking some of those times where I'm, just queuing up my podcast, remembering, oh no, we need to shift it to a different focus today because it has been a long week. It's been super stressful. So making sure that I'm mindful of where my mindset's at as well.
Right. Okay. So what is your advice for the loved ones, family members, so on and so forth, when they get that phone call?
Get involved. I know parents do. I know loved ones do. I know that they are always trying to help. And I think the biggest thing for somebody coming on probation, we kind of talked about that in the beginning, is I give parents, whenever I see parents or they come in or I go do a home visit and I see a parent or something like that, I'm always giving them my card because they can call us, they can text us, they can ask us questions. It's just important to say you're a part of this as much as they are, and that we will answer any questions you have. We can tell you about their rules. We can tell you how you can help. There's also, loved ones don't understand there's also support for them out there. Especially, and I think you had mentioned that a couple of times, that there is support. They don't have to go out to a meeting or anything like that, but there's support on the internet. There's, there's people they can call, there's support lines. So knowing that there's something for them as well, that if they're ever struggling with something and just don't know how to handle it or understand what's going on, there's something for them to call go to as well. And I think that, when I talk to loved ones, they just don't understand. That's what it is. They don't understand what's happening. They don't understand our role. They don't understand their love, who they're trying to support role. And they feel like it's more because the communication it probably isn't good either, right? So they're probably going home and saying, well, my agent told me I need to do A, B, and C, but they don't understand the significance of A, B, and C, or how A, B, and C has to happen. So sometimes saying, hey, I just have a question for you. What is the expectation and what needs to happen here? I've also had loved ones come in and sit down with me or with the client and say, okay, these are the expectations. How are we going to get there? Let's work together, especially if, we're a rural community. Things aren't easy accessible. So it's like, okay, well, what's your schedule? Let's all work together and get there. So it's just asking the questions. We're going to help along the way. And again, reading, knowledge is power. So just going out there and finding, information out and not being afraid to talk about it. And you had mentioned that as well, that if family members don't want to talk about it, they don't want to think something's wrong. So just knowing that there's other people out there that are struggling with the same things. And
well, what was illuminating to me was, and I forget where the statistic came from, but it basically 50% of American families have a loved one that's addicted. That's 50%. So there's close to 160 million Americans that love somebody So if anybody thinks they're alone,
Yeah, right. They're not. No,
they're not at all.
Right. Right.
And so the landscape has changed so dramatically. I mean, I remember my brother was addicted to cocaine, and this was, 50 years ago. So, and I remember talking to people, and I got like nothing. Like nobody knew anything. Nobody had that experience, anything along those lines. Like, whoa, okay, I'm in this by myself. But now that is not the case at all. And then you throw fentanyl in there. It's just completely, the whole landscape has changed.
And after fentanyl, there's going to be another thing that is going to kind of be thrown at us. So it's trying to be proactive rather than reactive. We have to keep figuring out and trying to, well, I don't think we'll ever be ahead, but we can still meet them where they're at, or get a little bit further ahead to say, let's do this instead of reacting, because, people are dying, and that's not the outcome we want to see. So
from your perspective and your lens at this point, what are the trends that you see emerging in the next 5 to 10 years relative to this?
As far as drug trends or
drug and, correctional
corrections.
trends.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So I think that, we've evolved a lot in the last couple of years. So I think just continuing to try to get ahead. So, we have the fentanyl test strips and Narcan now. So if something else is kind of thrown our way, hopefully getting something like xylazine has been a big one that has come up, and that's that animal tranquilizer. And I know that they're looking at hopefully getting test strips for that. So just trying to stay ahead of what's happening out there, and more treatment. We always, treatment is always so important. And like I said, our trauma treatment in our area has, we have new groups and they're focusing on that more. So I think just trying to figure out what is needed and get it out there. And, treatment is, any sort of treatment is so important for people. And I think that hopefully just continuing down, and we need more. There's never enough. So we always need, no matter where you are, there's more is better. So just having an education, just, all that stuff. It's hard to say, because I think that like everything that we have done is kind of, we're moving along. And I think that's super positive with the time. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there obviously has been a transition from punitive to a more empathetic response. And also, kind of embedded in what we're talking about here without having said it is people need to ask for help, and being okay with asking for help is also super, super important. And I think for some people, it's very much a learned skill, because we're kind of,
yeah, it's part of the addiction. When they're in addiction, right? You're fine. Everything's okay. It's kind of that whole cognitive criminal mind type thing they've got going on, where it's like lying to keep it going, all the things that they're doing. So when they're trying to break free from it, it's so hard for them to come and say, this is what's going on, and I need your help, and I need this. And I say to my clients a lot of times, I can't help you if I don't know.
Right.
And so it's so important for you to give me just a little bit. And sometimes you'll hear a little bit of something they'll say, or, just little things here and there will slip out, and I'll be like, okay, they're struggling right now. What can we figure out? So then that's my role, is to kind of just get a little bit of something in there, one day at a time. That's what I tell people. It's sometimes it's the littlest things, like, here's your sticky note for the next 3 days. And it's got 3 things on it. It's literally get up in the morning, get dressed, and go for a walk. And I'll see you in 3 days, and we'll follow up. I mean, sometimes it's just that, just those little things. But after those 3 days and they come to your office, they feel really good about themselves. So then you go to the next couple of days, and it's just working alongside them in those baby steps. And and then it's like, okay, I need help with this, or I need you to help me with this, and just working alongside them. We're just coming alongside in any way we can. And then hopefully, as they come out a little bit more and are a little more comfortable, getting that care for them, that wraparound care. If they have a loved one, they have treatment, they have us, just getting all the things that they need to get them along the way. But sometimes it's just as little as that, those 3 days, and then moving on from there. But
well, it's the same thing on our side of the equation. It's those micro successes that really add up. And, our ability to, like, in my phone, I have these reminders, and at some point along the way, worry was overtaking my life. And I read something, and so I just adopted this little mantra: I'm willing to release the need to worry. And so that little statement pops up in my phone every morning at 5:20. And so I see it every single day, and I have for months now. And there's just something about that like gives me, oh, I can relax, I can breathe,
That's so important. I mean, it's kind of like the sticky note thing, right? Where you're supposed to put a sticky note on your mirrors or all around your house and do that. And now with technology, I do the same thing with clients. I say, you should put this in your phone. Don't, because you're going to lose your sticky note. You're not going to put it
right.
But, and it's so funny you bring that up, because I had a parent call me once and they said, I'm worried she went for a walk. And I said, nope, that's good. She's supposed to go for a walk.
Right.
So it's just, they are picking up on those things. And so then again, ask, what are you guys working on? What are you doing? So I gave the parent the list of things that we were working on for the week. And they're like, okay, good. I said, won't be gone long, just a couple minutes. But yes, just they're trying to do the same thing, but then noticing, like sometimes over noticing they're gone or something's happening. But just, yes, those little reminders for both sides to take care of yourself. So
yeah. Well, I think kind of built into the mommy code in particular is that worry thing. And so, most of us are dealing with adult children or adults that are dealing with addiction. And that is a whole other ballgame to be able to step back and go, okay, this is an adult here, and I need to up my self-care skills, and I need to step back from feeling like I can control this or fix it or change it or anything along those lines, because truly, in so many ways, it is their decision to take their life back. And so I thought it was important that I modeled taking my life back.
Yes, very important. And I mean, I can tell somebody what to do, but unless they really want to do it, they're not going to do it, right? So it's kind of talking through it and making it their idea and their choice to want to do those kind of things. And then but also having that loved one saying, okay, they're taking care of themselves, this is what they're doing. That's a good model. That's a good thing for them to see, because sometimes they don't have that. They don't have those models or structures or anything like that. So it's what do you want to do today to get to the next day? And then having that parent figure or loved one saying, this is what I'm doing. And then saying, okay, coming together, what are you doing today to take care of yourself? This is what I'm doing today. And then, meeting in the middle with that. So it's very important.
Yeah. So we're kind of at the edge of this time. It went like that.
I did.
Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate you so much. So is there anything in particular that I didn't ask you or we didn't cover that you think is really important for the loved ones to hear from your side of or your piece of the community of this?
I would just say, don't be afraid to get involved. I think sometimes loved ones are afraid to contact us or to get involved because they don't understand. And so please don't be afraid. Don't shy away. We're here to help. That's our job. We're, helping them reintegrate into society or the community if they're coming out of an institution, or we're just helping them to relearn a new way of life, just guiding them. So please ask us, call us, come visit us, whatever you need to do. We're here to help. And then we can also, give you resources too on, especially if from different areas, on ways that you can get involved or things that, might be helpful.
Fantastic. So I just love the way that things have evolved, because I want my audience to be super clear. We have moved from punishing people who are dealing with substance use disorder to actually kind of embracing them in a community of support and care. And so to be able to hear you speak to that, your seat in all of this and within the Department of Corrections in Wisconsin, and to know the evolution of what you're involved with, I'm so hopeful. It gives me hope that we're moving in the direction of being more understanding,
Absolutely. I would
passionate.
agree. And you'll
Yeah.
hear that from I hear that from a lot of my clients that I've had, like I said, for years and years and years. They will say they've seen the transition and they appreciate the transition because they're the ones that, it's finally clicking because we're here
Right.
and we're working and we're digging and doing everything. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you so much. And thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Thank you for being who you are. Please continue to take care of yourself at a really high level because we need you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And what you're doing is so important. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Great. What a delight to have Nicole Schueppert on today. She is hope in the world of substance use disorder when it collides with being arrested and the criminal justice system and correctional institutions. We talked about evolving trends, what's emerging in different ways now that society is handling the things that are swirling around the chaos of this disease. So, the importance of community that helps people get into a thriving position. And I can't thank her enough. She's a powerful advocate. And this is a podcast that you absolutely don't want to miss. Thank you, Nicole.